Chakowski, and today I'm going to be teaching you about ESL in Wisconsin and in the United States. We're going to go through three different sections. The first one is our events that have happened and laws that have happened in ESL. Second will be where ESL students are in Wisconsin and where they've come from. And then third will be graphs that kind of show us where ESL students are located in the United States and then the percentage of different languages that are spoken. So first we're going to start with the laws and events. And first we have the Bilingual Education Act. And what this really did was it was federal legislation that provided funding to school districts in order to develop bilingual education programs. And this was in 1968 that this happened and occurred. Then we have the founding of TESOL. And what this is Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages is the acronym for it. And it was established in 1966. This was designed for teachers from all education levels to kind of come together who had an interest in teaching English as a second language. Then we have California's Proposition of 227, and what this was it was for students taught in California specifically, and it required the schools to teach the ESL students in special classes that were taught nearly all in English. And it eliminated the most programs in the state that provided multi-year special education for them. Then we have the Bilingual Education Act of 1984, and during this time, it was a modification to the Bilingual Education Act of 1968, and it allowed more flexibilities in the schools to be able to implement the resources that ELL students needed. And the schools were given more money for implementing the programs as well. Then we have the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and here this was enacted in 1965, and this authorized for state-run programs for the schools and districts to raise the academic achievement for struggling students with disabilities and in the ESL programs. And then we have the history of COBIS, and this is the Council of Bilingual Schools, that's the acronym for it. And this was in Dade County, Florida. What happened here was it helped to maintain standards that would serve as a guide for those in Florida that were ELL students. And it was incorporated in 1981, and it was one of the few public school districts that offered optional international studies programs and bilingual education in Spanish, French, German, and many other different languages as well. Then we have the Proposition 203, English Language Education for Children in Public Schools. And this was passed in 2000 of November, and it required all public school instruction to be conducted in English. And the children that weren't fluent in English would normally be placed in an intensive one-year English program to teach them the language as quickly as possible. And this one really focused on how English literacy is so essential and so important, and that it's the most important skill necessary to become a productive member in society. Then we have the No Child Left Behind Act, and this was a major legislative reform that was designed to change the culture of American schools to improve the student achievement. This really looked at the financial support aspect and how English language proficiency standards were the top, where that was the achievement, that was the measure. And it was different assessments that were made then for the ESL students. And then our last one is we have Law versus Nichols, and this was in 1974. This was a lawsuit over a Chinese ELL student, and he actually won. He won the favor of the U.S. Supreme Court. And what happened because of this court case was that ESL students nationwide, the rights for them were expanded and became greater than what they were before. Okay, now we're going to move into our second part, which is looking at the direction of ESL students in Wisconsin, where they're located, who they are, and how we deal with them in Wisconsin. So first of all, the direction in ESL in Wisconsin is the fastest growing population in the public schools. There were 47,000 ELL students in the Wisconsin schools in 2012, and it's continuing to increase. Who are the ELL students in Wisconsin? So the first major population are Spanish, and then the second are Hmong, followed by many different cultures, many different groups of people. And there are 137 identified spoken languages by students in our schools. And how does Wisconsin deal with ESL students currently? So teachers first must assess the ESL students and their eligibility based on a scale from 1 to 6. If they score between a 1 and a 5, they're eligible for ELL services. If they score a 6, they're not. If they score a 1 or 5, it is then taken to the parents, and the parents decide if they would like their child to receive ELL services or not. So that's kind of the process of obtaining ELL services in our schools. So lastly, we're going to look at the graphs. So this top one is a graph of the whole United States and shows 71% is Spanish, with 4% being Chinese, and then followed by many different other languages that form the smaller parts. And then here we have a map of the United States showing where the greatest population of ELL students are. And the top is California, followed by Texas, Florida, and New York. And then the rest of the states kind of fade out from there. And then this top one is a graph showing the population of the United States and its growth from 1997 to now 2008 and how it's gradually increased. But then also the ELL population and how it has shot up over the years and become really great. So I really hope that you learned something from this time talking about ESL in the United States and in Wisconsin. Thank you.